YouTube. Today I'll be showing you my Bystial Tenpai Black Metal Dragon Pile style of deck that I used to get first place at 2 consecutive locals. This particular locals has lots of different meta relevant decks like Ryzeal, Malice, different variants on those, Fiendsmith, and it performed excellently against those. So I really wanted to share this with you as a budget option, this format. If you already had the Bystial cards, I think that's the most expensive part of this deck. And so I think it can really compete with the meta. I'll put the full breakdown of the locals matches in the description. But yeah, we'll get right into it. We'll also go over some combos because it's quite unusual. It's not a typical dragon pile. So first of all, we've got 3 Bystial Libellion. Of course, one of the best starters when it comes to a Bystial engine. Similarly, in this deck, we can substitute Libellion for Saronir, and it basically accomplishes the same kind of thing, because the Saronir can send a Bystial, which will normally be the Libellion, when it's sent to grave. We really want to maximize on Bystials because they're engine for us as well as non-engine, in a sense, by interrupting our opponent as well as doing our combos. So we're going 3 Druisworm, the 1 Magnum Hut, and the 1 Boldrake, and the 1 Regained. So yeah, quite a big Bystial package, and it's really nice having Bystials as this format. Really good against Fiendsmith, although it's not as good against things like Malice in some sense. But I think there's definitely niche interactions you can do with it against those kind of decks, so they're always valuable. And of course the combo pieces, so really good to have a high count. We're playing the Black Metal engine with the Metal Morph cards. So we have 3 Black Metal Dragon, a 1/1, which is functionally a 4th copy of Black Metal Dragon. And to go with this, we have Darkness Metal Dragon, a Full Metal Dragon, and a Max Melt Morph. And so basically what this engine does is offer us extension for our dragon bodies through getting access to Darkness Metal Dragon. And Full Metal Dragon will get us a Omni Negate on our end board through Max Melt Morph. And this is all searchable off 1 Black Metal Dragon, which is not even something we have to hard open in this deck. We have methods that you'll see in the combos where we can turn a Tenpai portion of the engine into a Black Metal portion of the engine and really make an impressive end board. So yeah, that's one part of the deck. Then of course we have the Tenpai part, which will consist of 1 Genroku, 1 Pydra. You can think about playing 2 though of Pydra. 1 Fadra, 1 Chandra, a Sangan Kaiman, a Sangan Summoning, and yeah, this is like a smaller portion of the deck, of course, because there's lots of limits. We'd love to play more Kaiman, Summoning, maybe Chandra, but we can't, of course. But this is also part of the engine that is accessible through the Black Metal cards. So really, these kind of like go one into the other, which we'll see over the course of the combos. And so I think it's really good because even though the Tenpai hits the consistency, we're relying on other dragon engines to be able to get access to all of these. And so yeah, there's that's the good thing about dragons. Like Tenpai locks into dragons, so one of the advantages of this deck is that we are dragon locked, but we can still do lots of high power dragon plays after that. Next we have our combo enablers, which will be Dragon Ravine and Samsara Dragon. Now these aren't even really bricks, because if we hard draw them, they have utility, which just means that if we hard draw Ravine, we don't have to go into Romulus to search it. And with Samsara Dragon, it lets us cycle back any Bystial that we like. I'll just read this card because lots of people aren't necessarily familiar with it. So first part's not really relevant. It can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a dragon. And the more important part is that we can banish them from grave and target a level 5 or higher dragon in the grave, add it back to hand, and importantly, for this particular set of combos, we can also tribute summon immediately with that monster that we have back. We like to use this with Hieratic Seals. Tributing Hieratic Seals on your turn will get you a float of a dragon, which will really make your combos skyrocket. And so this is accessible off Dragon Ravine by sending that to the graveyard. Dragon Ravine has utility in lots of other ways for sending various dragons like Saronir in a pinch to send Libellion. So it's really nice package, not even really bricky. We have a prosperity for consistency because we don't draw, we draw for regain, but we can forego that by using prosperity for a consistency buff. And the extra deck isn't really that tight, even though it's a combo deck compared to some of the other decks in the format. We have a terraforming, which can normally get us access to Sanguine Summoning, or a Dragon Ravine in the right situation, and a set rotation, which can make use of us using 2 field spells to add a bit more consistency, although it lowers the ceiling and it's dead if you draw one of the other field spells. But that's fine because if we draw one of the other field spells, we'll normally use the field spell's effect to discard the set rotation anyway. So yeah, really nice combo enablers. We have our non-engine, which makes up of 3 Nibiru, 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Veiler, and Call By at 1, and 3 Imperms. So I think these are the most powerful and relevant hand traps right now. The Veiler is something that you could think about, like maybe being less powerful, but in this particular deck, you really want a high light and dark count, because when they're sent to graveyard, they enable the Bystials to summon from hand, which is another key reason why Nibiru is really good, as well as it being really good against the meta-relevant decks like Malice and Ryzeal. And yeah, so Call By, of course, is really important for us to follow through our combos, and Imperm can sometimes let us play around the talents and Frost. That's it for the main deck. I believe it's 43 cards, but we'll move on to the extra deck now. So we have 1 Disparter, 1 Transcendent Dragon, and 1 Bident Dragon. This is all these synchros are only really accessible with the Tenpai portion of the engine, so it's quite small. You could think about putting Bident up to 2, but I never really seen it come up, and Disparter is really helpful access. When we draw a Tenpai engine, we can use Disparter to really enable the rest of our engines, which is one of the key reasons we play Tenpai. We have our Tomb, which is really crazy in this deck. Any 2 Bystials can make it, and it gets us access to any of the other dragon engines. So we'll see over the combos that we can use this to summon a Tenpai Hydra or a Black Metal Dragon to really make our combos pop off. And we have 2 Seals, which is necessary for the combo, but also the grind game. And these erratic cards that you really enable all the other engines to get access to them and pivot from one to the other, depending on the situation. We play Romulus, of course, for the Dragon Ravine search. We have 2 Link 1s, Pisty and Striker Dragon. One thing I'll note is that Pisty Dragon locks you, so normally turn 1 you want to do that over the course of your combos, and then Striker Dragon's not going to Dragon lock you whilst you have it face up, so it's really good for going into things like SP Little Knight off Striker Dragon. And we have some other extra deck, which is Typhon. I think is necessary in certain grind game states, but these last 5 don't come up too much, but they could come up in theory. So Underworld Goddess for outing Floodgates, a Promethean Princess for outing for like a follow-up of the Tenpai engine if you want to go for an OTK on the follow-up. And we have a Nightmare Phoenix and a Link Spider. So yeah, this is Nightmare Phoenix is good for linking off the Promethean Princess, but you could play a Raging Phoenix. I just don't have one right now. Nightmare Phoenix also outs the spell trap kind of floodgatey cards if you can, and Link Spider is good in a Nibiru situation. Hasn't come up so far, but you could go link off the Nibiru and make an SP Little Knight, banish something like the Nibiru, and yeah, so. But these things like you normally banish your Prosperity because they don't come up all too often. Which yeah, so the side deck I think is refined pretty well after all my testing. What we do is use 3 Frost, 3 Talents, and a Duster. And what I like to do is put this engine in going second. So these 7 cards replace what I showed as the Black Metal engine because it's less good going second. So because the Black Metal Red Eyes cards only set up an Omni Gate basically and offer extension. But going into a board, we our first priority is breaking the board, which is what these cards enable. The Thrust can add a terraforming, or talents can thus take a monster and draw 2 cards. And so I think that as long as we have a push to enable these cards, they're really good. And of course, the kind of staple of the side decks right now is Artifact Lancier. Yeah, I've drawn into this card off Regained a few times against Malice, which feels really good. And it just shuts down the turn. And yeah, so yeah, you just need it against Malice really, especially when they go first. And we have some Floodgatey kind of traps. Rivalry, of course we're pure dragons, so we don't really care. And it's really good against things like Ryzeal. Dimensional Barrier, good against Ryzeal. And Sanctum, of course, we set this using Thrust when we're going first against Malice, and we set this against Ryzeal going first. And just for the 2 last cards in the extra deck, we have a 2 Dogwood package, which actually won me a game against Malice because they went full combo through it and got to 30k life points, and it took them, yeah, they didn't manage to reduce my life points in time. So yeah, I definitely recommend Dogwood if you think that games are going to go quite long in certain situations. So that's the deck, and then we're going to go over some combos to really show the potential of this deck and make a kind of unbreakable end board. So for our first combo, we're going to see what we can accomplish with just 1 Bystial Rebellion, a Black Metal Dragon, and a random discard. And we're going to see how we can get access to the Tenpai engine just through using our Black Metal Dragon along with Bystial and pivoting using the Hieratic cards. So we'll lead with our Bystial Rebellion using its effect to go ahead and add a Bystial Saronir from deck to hand. Now, we're always thinking about our opponent's hand traps as we're sequencing our combo. So because Bystials are really popular in the format, I always like to, if you can, lead off with a Bystial. Even though this is, in most combos, not ideal, because we don't want to banish our Rebellion from our graveyard, but we'll see over the course of this combo we can make up for this. So we'll banish Rebellion, summon Saronir, and of course here we're going to normal summon our Black Metal Dragon. We're going to link off the Black Metal to go ahead and summon our Guard Dragon Pisty. Black Metal will trigger, which will add our Darkness Metal Dragon from deck to hand. From here, we will banish the Pisty and summon the Darkness Metal Dragon and use its effect to reborn the Black Metal Dragon. Now, the sequencing is quite important to play around things like Nib, so what I like to do is link off these 2 to get to our Romulus. Now we'll get our 3 chain links here, which will be Romulus 1, Saronir 2, Black Metal 3. Once this all resolves, we'll send a Rebellion from deck to grave. We'll add our Full Metal Dragon, and we'll get our Dragon Ravine from deck to hand. Now we want to think about hand traps, of course, and we're pretty much in nib territory now. So ideally we want to force this out or find a way to play around it and be able to get something back if we get nibbed. And so the best way to do that is that we saved our Darkness Metal Dragon here. We contribute it for our Bystial Rebellion. And now our opponent is kind of forced to nib us here, because if they don't, then we're going to activate our Bystial Rebellion, and this will activate Regained from our deck. And if our opponent nibs us after this point, then we get a dragon back, which means that if we have other things in hand, we can still keep playing. So that's a really good good thing about this 2.5 card combo. From here, what we'll do is link off these 2 into our Hieratic Seals. Hieratic Seals is another really good way to force out nib, because if we're threatening a Hieratic Seals and pass move, then our opponent might feel the need to Nibiru us early, because Hieratic Seal floats under nib into any dragon from deck, and from there we can keep playing. Now we'll use our Dragon Ravine, and we'll use it to discard our random card. And this will let us go ahead and send our tech card, Samsara Dragon from deck to grave, which will make all these combos possible. we'll go ahead and use our Samsara Dragon, banishing it, and this will go ahead and add back our Bystial Saronir, and importantly, we'll use the secondary effect of Samsara Dragon to get an extra tribute summon. So we'll tribute over our Hieratic Seals with Saronir, and this will actually trigger Seal's effects, which we don't often do on our turn, but it's all possible thanks to Samsara Dragon. And this will allow us to float into our Bystial Magnum Hut. And now we get to use Bystial Magnum Hut effect. But now we have 2 level 6 dragons. So now we can go ahead and go into Hieratic Dragon King of the Tomb. Now this might seem like a bit of a choke point because we're kind of stuck with a tomb if it gets impermed here. But we went ahead and checked that our opponent had imperm by going through Bystial Rebellion. And that's always something you want to hit. If you're a deck like Malice, then like Branded Regained goes and really does a lot to you. So I think that we can adequately risk going into a tomb here, just for the extra extension. We'll use a tomb, which will detach our Bystial in order to summon from deck a dragon, which will get us access to our Tenpai engine. From here we can use Pydra, which will add us our Sanguine Kaiman. You could go for summoning instead, but I think we're going to be playing, the protection is not really relevant for this combo, and you'd be discarding another card, which could be a hand trap, which could make all the difference in your games. So I prefer Kaiman in this situation. We'll use the Kaiman to add our Genroku from deck to hand, and Genroku can go ahead and use its effect to summon itself and make itself a level 4 tuner. From here, we can Synchro now into our Bident Dragon, Dragion. This will allow us to summon back the Genroku, and Genroku's effect is now applicable, so we can tribute it to go ahead and summon our Tenpai Dragon Vajra, and Vajra could then get back our Genroku. So we really built up our bodies, dragon bodies, just for getting access to the Tenpai engine. But it doesn't stop there. We can go ahead and use these two to make ourselves a Disparter. And Disparter can recycle our Samsara Dragon from Banished. Now from here, what we can do is link off a Tomb and Samsara Dragon, because they're not doing much on our end board, into another Hieratic Seal, which is why it's important to play 2, as well as for the grind game. And then we can use Full Metal Dragon, putting it back on the bottom of the deck. We can go ahead and set ourselves a Max Metal Morph from deck. And this is pretty much our end board. So in end phase, we're going to be able to use our Magnum Hut Resolves, adding Boldrake from deck to hand. And how this will play out on the opponent's turn is that we have Disparter live with its own interruption, which means we can pop our opponent's monster when it uses its effect. Or if they manage to banish something, we can turn it to a negate, which is really great. We can use Hieratic Seal, tributing it, and this will normally float into a Druid Swarm. And this is layered interruption because we can at any time tribute Druid Swarm using our Max Metal Morph. And that will go ahead and summon out our Full Metal Dragon, which is of course an Omni Negate. We might want to, depending on what deck you're against, you might want to use the Max Metal Morph early, but I think it's alright to get greedy with it if we're using it in tandem with Druid Swarm. And of course we have our Boldrake, which can function of course to hit any important lights or darks out of the opponent's grave, like Fiendsmith Engine, as well as being its own interruption on field once it's summoned, as well as triggering Regained to shuffle back the card and draw a card, which could be another hand trap. So you can see this has incredible potential when it all pops off, and I pretty much don't lose the game if all this resolves. Regained has the other effect, where if they summon the card, we can summon back our Magnum Hut for follow-up, adding any dragon, which could be Tenpai Dragon Engine, to OTK for next turn. But it's very hard to break this board, and yeah, and so one last thing we have to keep in mind, is that we have some Sorrow Dragon in our grave, which can add back a Bystial for our follow-up as well. So we have a crazy number of interruptions and a massive follow-up just from utilizing both the Red Eyes engine as well as the Bystial engine and the Tenpai engine all in one turn. Now for our second combo, we're going to see what we can do with just the Tenpai engine and a Bystial, and this will end up getting us access to our Black Metal Dragon engine and be able to make the same end board that we had last time, pretty much. So this may seem unlikely from what we got here, which is a full card combo, but it's more likely than you think because this Sangan Summoning, which is one of it's interchangeable as a starter with Hydra, Terraforming, Sangan Kaiman, and even like set rotation. Even though with set rotation you don't get the full end board because you don't get access to Dragon Ravine, but these are all similar starters. With the Bystial, it could be Bystial Saranir, and then it's a slight tweak to the combo at the beginning, and you get the same end board. Or it could be even any other Bystial, but you just don't get access to the full end board. And you can use any Light or Dark in place of Veiler here. It could be another Bystial or Nibiru, or like Ghost Ogre if you choose to run Ghost Ogre. And finally, we need a random card to discard, which should be literally anything. So going first, of course, we're going to have a random card that we can discard. So to start this combo, we're going to play around as many hand traps as possible. So what we're going to do is lead with Bystial Rebellion in case they have Droll. Then we can play around the Droll. So get to Bystial Saranir. And if we get Drolled here, then we can still have a Bystial for their turn. Now what we want to do is play around their Bystials, which means that we need to start with our own Bystial. Whilst we have no monsters on field, their Bystials aren't quick effects. And so we want to lead with Sangan Summoning here, and use his effect, which will add our Tenpai Dragon from deck to hand, our Hydra. And we get to discard our random Light or Dark. From here, we can now safely use our Saranir and banish the Veiler this time. We want to keep the Rebellion engraved for the context of this combo. And because of this favourable situation, we can go ahead and tribute the Saranir for a really early summon of Bystial Rebellion. And now we can use our Rebellion, we can use our Saranir to send to grave, send our Bystial Magnum Hut for this combo specifically. Now we can use our Rebellion on the field, which will not insulate our combo from Nibiru a bit more better by placing Branded Regained. So this is a promising start. We can now normal summon our Hydra, which of course is unaffected because of Sangan Summoning. And this will allow us to get access to our Tenpai portion of the engine. So we'll go Kaiman. Kaiman activates, grabbing us our Genroku. And Genroku will summon itself, make itself a level 4 tuner. And of course, we're going to make these two into our Bident Dragon. And just like last time, reborn the Genroku. And use Genroku to summon out our Fadra. And Fadra will reborn the Genroku. So we've flooded the board with dragon bodies, and this is insulated, of course, because we have access to Sangan Summoning. So Nibiru won't do much right now. We always want to keep these hand traps in mind as we continue to combo off. So we're going to now go for a Link 2 with these two into our Romulus. Romulus will go ahead and add our Dragon Ravine from deck to hand. And make sure to now synchro off into a Disparter. Of course. And this will mean that now that our next move, which will be to replace summoning with Dragon Ravine, that our board couldn't be nibbed, because now if we get nibbed, then Regain will be able to resummon the Disparter to our field, which is a big boss monster. Now the next move is to use Dragon Ravine, sending our discard, and using our tech card Samsara Dragon, we can get access to the rest of our combo. sending it to our grave, we can go ahead and banish some Sorrow Dragon to add back that Bystial Magnum Hut that we added earlier back to our hand. And one thing I didn't do in the last combo, but you probably should, is that when some Sorrow Dragon is banished here, you can go ahead and use Regain to put it on the bottom of the deck, and you get to draw a card, which is much more valuable than keeping it for follow-up. So we'll go ahead and do that. From here, this is really important what you banish. So we're going to use Bystial Magnum Hut to banish our Bystial Sariner. But it won't stay banished for long. First of all, we're going to use Magnum Hut's effect on the field. And we're going to use Sariner. So we're going to use Disparter to reborn the Sariner. And of course, we've got our 2 level 6 dragons here. They like to make an Atum. And an Atum will of course translate it into any dragon we want from deck, which will in this case be a black metal dragon. Now we can turn our Romulus and our black metal dragon into a Hieratic Seal. We actually only need 1 for this combo in particular, and that will trigger our black metal dragon to access to our darkness metal dragon. Now we can banish our Hieratic Dragon King Atum to summon the Darkness Metal Dragon, and Darkness Metal will go ahead and reborn our Black Metal Dragon. And now it's important to play the other Link 1 dragon, which will be Striker Dragon, because now that will trigger our Black Metal Dragon to go ahead and add our Full Metal Dragon. And now last thing to do is use Full Metal Dragon, putting it back on the bottom of the deck in order to set our Max Metal Morph directly from our deck. So this is Promption board. We get and of course we get End Phase Magnum Hut, adding Bystial Boldrake. Now to go over this, it's lots of similar stuff. We have access to, of course, our most important interruption, which is Max Metal Morph, which will get access to Omni Negate, and we have it right away because we have Darkness Metal on field. Go ahead and Tribute to summon out the Full Metal Dragon. This will insulate, this is really good for insulating things like Lancia, which we have inside, against Malice. We even drew a card, and we'll draw another card over the course of Regained on their turn. We'll so to get these really impactful hand traps drawn. So we're gonna, on their turn, Boldrake, summon, banishing one of their lights or darks, and we get to put it back with Regain to draw yet another card. So we draw 2 cards here. You could draw 2 cards in the other combo too, by shuffling back some Sorrow Dragon when it's banished. We have access to Seal, of course, which will tribute, and get access to our Drill Swim, I believe, yeah. And of course we have Drill Swim here, which can be even tributed with Boldrake for another 2 interruptions. We have our Disparter, which is either a negate if they banish, or a destroy by putting back one of our banished cards. And of course we have Regained to reborn any Bystial when they summon. So many interruptions and follow-up through our Magnum Hut, and really controlling the game state with Regained. And if they can't out the Omni Negate this turn, then we have another Omni Negate next turn. So, as well as Disparter, so like they really need to out these bodies if they want to win the game, which is unlikely. So yeah, this is the craziness that is Dragons right now. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this fun combo. I think this deck's a really good budget option right now. And after all my testing, it seems it can compete with the meta. And yeah, be sure to subscribe and like the video if you want to see more cool ideas for the budget player or the rogue player with Yu-Gi-Oh! And hope to see you in the next video.